Yes, hello everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. You're welcome to Nigerian Diaspora TV once again on our women's program empowering the Nigerian woman. Today, our topic is women's health, and we have a wonderful doctor in the house today to give a presentation for the women, Dr. Loretta Ogburu Uko. Gynecologist, UK-based gynecologist. Dr. Loretta, you're welcome to the program. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself further? Hello, Dr. Loretta.
Can we hear me? Can we hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Good evening, our brother, Constant Nosa Olotu. It's interesting because I've known you for a while, but I didn't know you were the same person doing this all interesting program. So you said it all. My name is Loretta Oduwari Ogburu. And today I'll be talking about women's health and overcoming the challenges. My background is medicine. I studied medicine at the University of Benin, Benin City, and went on to acquire a master's in public health research, and became a member of the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. So that means I'm a doctor who looks after women, pregnant and non-pregnant women. And sometimes I may have to care for them in a holistic fashion that covers both their partners and their children. I'm also a clinical simulation expert because I went on to have a clinical education MSc, and I'm currently doing a PhD in law and criminology. But most importantly, I like the fact that I've written the book titled My Father's Daughter. So that's a bit about me.
Oh, beautiful. So you can go ahead.
So this evening, we are going to be talking about women's health, overcoming the challenges. I'm going to be sharing my slide. Can we see my slide?
Oh, sure, yeah. You can make it bigger, yeah.
Excellent. I'm going to do that. I want to get to the first one. There you go. Is that any bigger? Let's make it slideshow.
Yeah.
Where's my slideshow icon? Yeah. Yes, good. So that tells us what we are having to talk about today, women's health, overcoming the challenges. I'm going to try and speak for a shorter time so that we can take a few questions, comments, or whatever the case may be. I think the next slide actually tells you a bit about myself, saying I'm really passionate about tackling women's reproductive and mental health issues. So women's health challenges, how are we looking at it? I think if we want to speak in the context of Nigeria and we want to speak in a broader context outside of Nigeria, I think we all know what the problems are. So I'm going to talk about it in the context of Nigeria and also look at it in the broader context. And I want us to see it as, when you look at the challenges, you can actually break them down. You can break them down into the challenges innately in the woman or the girl child, the challenges that are within the society, the sociocultural and socioeconomic milieu or setting, and the challenges that are within the government and government policies and implementation of these policies at all levels. The same thing, if you want to look at the interventions or the solutions, they are also going to come on at these different levels. But the important thing to take away is that none of these levels stand by themselves. They all interdigitate, they all merge. It's like a little Venn diagram we used to have in medicine, where you find that all of these things overlap. The challenges of the woman, when you look at the challenges of the woman in terms of as an individual, the girl child, the burden, if we were to take on the burden and see, you find that it tells you that every day somewhere in the world, every day you have, in 2017, every day we were told that 810 women, the WHO said 810 women died from pregnancy and pregnancy-related issues, and these were all preventable causes. That's significant. And it goes on to tell us that 94% or about 95% of all maternal deaths happen in low economic, low resource settings, or low economic and low resource poor countries. And sadly, we are told still that a Nigerian woman has a 1 in 22 chance of dying in her lifetime from pregnancy and pregnancy-related issues. Furthermore, we are told that Nigeria is where 20% of all the maternal mortalities globally are happening. So what is the problem? What's wrong with the girl child who grows on to become the woman? What's innately her problem? What are the intrinsic factors? And if you look carefully, you find that from when the girl child is born, she's impaired, if I'm allowed to use that word, by society. Impairment is not only physical, psychological, how you perceive yourself. If we know the problems in the North, where you are married off by the time you are 12, 13, reproductive structures are not even matured. These girls are not empowered. You know, all these are problems. What percentage of the Nigerian girl child is in school? How are we meeting up with the SDGs in terms of educating our girl child? Because whether we like it or not, the girl child is going to grow into the woman. How does this girl child understand the meaning of health? What is the perception? All of these things are going to come out in how we raise the girl child. And then we don't raise them in isolation. We raise them in a society. We raise them in our cultures. We raise them in our religion. And there's a socioeconomic setup. We know that man and woman, when I say man, it's encompassing, but let's be holistic and add woman. We are all social animals. But the good thing is that culture is a way of life. It's dynamic. And we cannot overemphasize that socioculturally there are problems. The girl child is raised almost as a second-class citizen in most of our culture. And I used to think that was just limited to Nigeria or the African continent. And then I came outside Nigeria and the African continent. And I still find that there are places where there is pay gaps. So there's this inequality across board for women, even in the so-called Western countries. But we need to narrow it down to what's happening within our Nigerian context. And I'll give an example about how society and our socio-cultural, religious, and ethnic predispositions affect the health of women. I'll lay the story for this challenge. Let's talk about Osas. Osas was somebody I encountered when I went to Benin in one of the tertiary hospitals. They were having a mortality and morbidity review on that day, and I was in attendance. Now, Osas was dead, but we're reviewing her story so that we don't make the mistakes and her care. The summary was that Osas came when she was pregnant, and the doctor told her, you need to have an operation to have this child because the placenta is in the way. And the doctor said, go, madam, go and bring your things. You are going to have an operation now. Osas left and never came back. By the time Osas came back, she was bleeding, half dead, and eventually died on the corridors of UBTH. She couldn't make it into the theater. And the story was that when she got home, she told her mother-in-law, who took her to a church, and they started praying that she will deliver like a Hebrew woman. She would not go for surgery. Sadly, Sas went into labor. Sadly, she died. The story of Osas illustrates our sociocultural environment. It illustrates the burden. It illustrates a place where people don't even understand the meaning of care. It also illustrates a place where the caregivers are not necessarily providing the information in a manner that people should understand. It illustrates a place where people will substitute the church, the mosque, and the traditional religion for healthcare provision. Osasi's story, though sad, is almost the case of many women who constitute that figure of 810 that I just quoted. How are we going to change our socioeconomic milieu if a woman does not have proper income? What are the chances that she's going to access healthcare even when it is available? So sometimes we talk about accessibility, availability, and in healthcare. But we need to understand that a lot is happening in the minds of the individuals, in our sociocultural disposition, what we understand religion to be, that will make us as women to access healthcare. People need a whole mind shift. Then you have the challenges at the government level. Maternal mortality in Sweden is only about 16 women in a year. What is the Swedish government doing that the Nigerian government is not doing? I found out when I went to Nigeria and when I looked in some of the core documents that we do have policies. We have policies at all levels. We have policies in healthcare. We've rolled out things like roll back malaria. We've done free healthcare for women and children under 5. We had rural health for rural women. We had all sorts. Even entrenched in the Federal Ministry of Health, we have so many policies. Where we fall short is the implementation of these policies. What are we doing to ensure that health at all levels, primary, secondary, tertiary, is something that is available to all? And even though I'm talking about women, it is important that we understand that there are very, very many men who are co-drivers in this struggle to make sure that women are optimized in terms of health, empowerment, and socioeconomic development. Now, the interventions I told you are also divided into those levels. So intricately, as a woman or a girl child, how do you intervene to optimize the healthcare burden that either you are born into or that is thrust on top of you? It starts from the home. It starts from parenting. As parents, how are we raising our children? Are we empowering them? Remember, it's not only going to school to get a certificate that empowers somebody. You can have a skill. You can be a hairdresser. You can be a mechanic. You can be someone who sells in the market. The important thing is, are you empowered to be able to source health care when it comes? And we shouldn't downplay how people perceive themselves. Do you think as a woman that you sleep in the market from morning till night, that when something is wrong with you, you owe yourself the duty of spending some of that money on yourself? Do you understand that there is value on you from menarche? Menarche simply represents the word that tells us when the periods first start, to menopause. Do you understand that you need to care for yourself a bit differently along life's timelines? Are these women suffering domestic violence that affects not just their physical health, but also their mental health? Do you know that women who suffer domestic violence are 4 times more likely to have something go wrong with their pregnancies and their babies? And do you understand that your mental health is paramount? So that means you need to take care of your own happiness. You're responsible for it. All of these things will stem from how you raise the girl child. Importantly, and I've written it 3 times on this slide, lifestyle and dietary modification, lifestyle and dietary modification, lifestyle and dietary modification is everything. Because by the time we are obese, we have a lot more issues. We have things that will range from diabetes to raised blood pressure to a lot of mortality and morbidity during pregnancy itself and at delivery. We should learn that everything in moderation is what is good. Avoid late eating. Optimize your own health by your own self. Fruits and vegetables are abundant. Albeit in Nigeria, we have the organic ones. Here in other countries, we struggle to get organic meals. Intricately, let's empower ourselves. We can keep our socio-cultural identity and still be global. That's why I put these pictures. The lady's there, she's a doctor, she's got a master's from Oxford, but you can see she's still keeping that identity. We don't have to lose who we are. We just have to optimize who we are, optimize our own health-seeking behavior. The interventions at the society level, what are we doing? You know, sometimes I find that people would tell a woman, look at you, you are 30, you are not yet married. You need to get married. Society stereotypes her. She rushes into a marriage. She becomes very, very unhappy in that marriage. Sometimes, not all the time. And that is the beginning of her own healthcare crisis. So we need cultural integration. We have things like female genital mutilation. Thank God, I always tell people, Nigeria is not top of that list, but it used to happen. And we need to stop all of these things. We have a case where women are pregnant and they don't engage with the antenatal care, even when it's there. As a society, what are we doing? We all rush to churches. Those are societies, aren't they? We have doctors in some of these churches and mosques. How many of them give healthcare talks? How many? How many take time out to impact knowledge in the local language? Because we are each responsible for the rest of us, just like the rest of us is responsible for each of us. So we need a paradigm shift. We need a population who is going to begin to understand the value for human life. It may be slow, but it's something we need to do. And then at the government levels and policy levels, you and I are government, wherever we are in the world. Are you in Nigeria? You are government. You know, followership must drive government. And even if you are in other advanced countries, you are still government. In fact, that is where you understand how important you are. Your one voice can make a difference. Primary and preventive healthcare is the bedrock of keeping every sector of the population healthy. In Nigeria, I know we have the NHIS, but how much uptake, how much engagement are people doing with that process? And there are some core things that should be free. Healthcare education in all languages should be free. Target them from inside of the schools, the markets, in their languages. Contraception should be free. And in as much as we preach and pray abstinence and say that abortion is a sin, I did my dissertation on post-abortion complications in southern Nigeria. So it is happening, and we are losing thousands of women in Nigeria every day to unsafe abortion. So if they are determined to have it, then please let's make it safe and let's make it free. And then we need, as a government, to have policies that train our traditional birth attendants on when and how to refer. Because we have very few doctors, whether we like it or not, a population of about 200 million. You want to tackle health care, especially the health of women. We know that a lot of them are in the rural areas. And we do know that most times, many people will pass through life not having many healthcare problems. We also know that most times in pregnancy, many women would go along and be fine. But for those who encounter problems, do those people in the rural areas know when to refer? It was many years ago when I was in the university that I saw SOGON enacting policies with the federal government on training TBAs, traditional birth attendants, and getting them to know when to refer. But up until now, a lot of that blueprint has not been properly implemented. And then at the tertiary level as well, when we refer, do those teaching hospitals or the secondary hospitals, like the specialist hospitals, do they have the facilities to take on these referrals? Do they have the human capacity to take on these referrals? Are the staff trained? And when I say trained, it's not just for you to be a surgeon, you cut open and you close. Do you have the soft skills? Let me tell you the example with another story. We find that a lot of people run to church when they have a problem, even medical ones, to talk to their pastors. Have we ever asked ourselves as healthcare providers, why? The reason is because the pastor will sit down and listen and talk to these women at their own level. But you go to a hospital in Nigeria, and unfortunately, from the door, there is some sort of hostility. You know, the doctor is explaining something. Look at the case of USAS. Maybe the doctor just said, pack your bag, go and do surgery. We must operate you. That's what the doctor said. What if the doctor had taken time out to say, USAS, the placenta is like a full plumbing work of blood. And it is like a big fence now that is covering where baby will come out of. Any attempt for you to go into labor like this, there is no way for the baby to pass, and that full plumbing work of all the blood will burst open. You will bleed and you will die. Take time out, the soft skills. Make the patient the center of care. Make them feel it's all about them. Make these women feel welcome and special. And this is not just only a problem in Nigeria. We find that even here in the UK, you find that Black and ethnic minority women are 5 times more likely to die in the NHS when they go and seek service. And the reason is why? The reason is they've been found to be, one, non-engagement from the side of these women, because they've come in and sometimes they don't understand how the system works. But also, more importantly, non-engagement from the staff on ground. So you come in, maybe your English is impaired, nobody listens to you, everybody is rushing, and that is when errors and mortality rates and morbidity rates will increase. So we need to look at that. It's very, very key. Tertiary and public-private partnerships is very important, because healthcare is not cheap anywhere in the world. Women's health is not cheap anywhere in the world. I can tell you, people here in the UK, obstetrics and gynecology uses the most amount of donor blood. So all the blood donated, we make the most use of most of it. So you can see why women die in places like Nigeria. And one of the ways we can solve most of these things is by having public-private partnerships, where you have persons who have come with a lot of money, who can drive the provision of this service, and they pair up with the government in some aspects of it. True, it may be difficult in the beginning or expensive at the beginning, but eventually we will get there and make these things not only accessible, but affordable. And then Nigeria needs to meet up, just meet up with the SDGs. They are all there written on paper, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the part that tackles the provision of health at all levels. So I'm sure by the time we do all of these, we will find that no woman, no Nigerian woman, or any woman for that matter, should die in the course of their reproductive duties, especially. And then you find that all women, pregnant or non-pregnant, understand the meaning of placing value on their own health care, improve their health-seeking behavior, optimize their diet and lifestyle, and realize that they are completely worth it. Because every Nigerian patient, especially the Nigerian women, and women across the world, not just Nigeria, they are worth the healthcare investment. They are the future of every single country and of our continent. Thank you. I owe a lot of my images to Google, and WHO is my reference for most of the data. Thank you.
Very, very much, Doctor. Well, if you're watching us and you have any question, you can call the WhatsApp number now. I know because on some other of our platforms I didn't go on because I normally do cross posting because I was in a hurry. I forgot to do that. So on our major platform, which is Onward Nigeria, we are not on right now, but I'll post it there. But for those on the Nigerian Diaspora TV and the other platforms, I'm not showing my face because this is a woman's program. We're talking about women's health. So let's see the face of the professional. Yeah. If you have any question, you can call now. Otherwise, so Dr. Loretta, would you, because your contact is here, and I'm still going to post your contact. So will you be available to do like a one-time free consultation, online consultation for the viewers? Would that be
yes,
okay?
I don't mind. I don't mind doing that. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're watching us right now, maybe you're too shy to ask your questions because there's a man here. Dr. Loretta's information is there, so she can do a one-time consultation for free for you if you have issues or questions about your health as a woman to ask her. So final word for the people if we don't have any call now.
So you see, I have decided to do this as a broad topic and not go into specific nitty-gritties. Like people will come and say, oh, I have heavy periods. What do I do about that? Or, oh, I need contraception. What do I do about that? Because that may have been the expectations of people. But you see, the key thing is, if we
Hello.
I need contraception. What do I do about that?
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, I have a question for the doctor.
Okay, go ahead. Doctor,
my name is Dr. Tony Agbons. I'm calling from the UK.
Oh, good. So, Dr. Loretta, can you hear him?
Yes, I can hear you, Dr. Agbons. Carry
on.
Go
ahead, Dr. Agbons.
Thank you for your very robust presentation. I'm not a woman, but I'm a male, but I want to ask this question from my own constituency, which is education. In terms of safeguarding, what is the role of parents in safeguarding the girl child? Because from available research, most parents, even when their daughters or even male children report indecent touching and all that from maybe neighbors or acquaintances, people around them, they just shut the children down and said, "Oh, you don't say that." And so, what would be your advice for parenting advice for in those kind of situations?
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Agbons. I think your question is timely because the lockdown period. I was reading some data yesterday that came to me from Benin City in Edo State. There's a body called Association Against Women Exports. Is an NGO. And I happen to belong to that NGO. But I was speaking to those on ground in Benin yesterday, and they were telling me how in this lockdown period, a lot of young girls have been molested by relatives because they just couldn't go outside to find their usual kicks. And that it has been difficult for a lot of these girls to speak up. So I was wondering, I said, what exactly is happening here? The truth is that parents are the primary safety nets for the girl child and raising the girl child. In my book, My Father's Daughter, I wrote about how my father empowered me, gave me information, and made me realize that, look, you are who you are. How my mother would take time to make sure that we are well cared for, and their eyes are on us without necessarily impeding us. So I find it quite strange that you have certain parents who have relinquished all the rights of parenting to the teachers. They are so busy. I mean, in today's world, we are also busy chasing money, chasing everything else, that we actually forget that our children need us and they need time with us and not necessarily just the money. In our own environment in Nigeria, you find that we are very, our society is one where people are very free to move in between houses and in families. So what do I mean? You find that when we were growing up, you have a lot of uncles, aunties, and sisters all living in the house, being raised by their own parents. And in these kind of setups, if the parents are not vigilant, this is when abuses come in. The other thing is that predisposed the African girl to a lot of abuse is the mentality with which the society makes the male's predatorship acceptable. So you find a young girl is growing up and somebody will come and say, now my wife, this one will be tomorrow. You know, and they say it's joke, but all of these things permeate. Now, to directly answer your question, what the parents should do to help the girl child and protect her from abuse, enhancing safeguarding, it's simple. Begin to talk to your children from a very early age. My daughter is often very, she goes out and she says, Mommy, my friends, they want to meet you. And this is because I have spoken to her from when she was small. I tell her, look, this is your vagina. This is your labia. Now, you may say that it's because I'm a doctor, but no, it's because I have understood that if you don't talk to your children, someone else will do that. And they will talk to that child in a way you will not like, in a way that may mar the child's life. And it's the same thing I do with my son, because abuse is not only on the girl child, even though it's a lot more for the girl child. We've seen where boys are made to sleep with house girls who are 30 years their senior. We've seen all that before. So talking. You need to communicate with these children. This is what this place is called. It's called your vagina. If anybody touches it, tell me. If anybody tells you they want to see it, come and tell mommy. You know? And you need to make them know that it's okay to come and tell mommy if something is not right. You know, sometimes maybe a child will come and say, Mommy, I want to talk to you. What do you want to say? You don't give that child time to talk. Or the child comes and says, Mommy, you know, I don't like this person. And you're like, oh, don't worry, you get used to the person. You don't actually sit down to say, come, tell me, why don't you like this? And the truth is that fathers have a responsibility for safeguarding their children, even more than mothers. Because girls have a way of really bonding with their fathers. I don't know how nature made that, you know, and they would listen to them. They are their first role models. So you have that responsibility to sit down and talk to your child and say, you can be anything in this world you choose to be. Don't let anybody deceive you and say, I'm going to provide this for you and provide that for you. Therefore, at the age of 12, you see girls, they are being told, I will buy you biscuit, ordinary biscuit. Come, let me touch your breast. And that's how it starts. So as parents, we need to go back to basics, especially with our girl child, and also importantly, with our male sons, a male child, boy child. We need to let them know that, oh, this is who you are. We need to have that discussion about sex and the reproductive organs. My daughter went to school in Nigeria, and she also did a part of her education in the UK. When they were having sex education classes in Nigeria, she told me when I come, she said, Mommy, this is a joke. Even the teachers cannot say the words. They are saying, oh, down there, when someone touches you down there. Compared to what I had done in primary school in England, this is a joke. And these are some of the social-cultural barriers that we have. Because if you teach these children, then they know. If you don't teach them, someone else is going to come and teach them. When I was in secondary school, there was a classmate of mine whose mother was a nurse, a midwife. Her mother taught her all of the contraceptives and what to do and what to use them for, even at that age of 11. But I can tell you, that was one girl who never found the need for them. Those who were not taught went haywire experimenting with them. So this is one aspect we need to integrate our culture. Cultural integration is very needed to optimize our parenting skills.
We have another caller. Let me take this call. Yeah, hello.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, hello, good evening, caller. Where are you calling from? What's the name of where you're calling from? And what's
Hello.
Yeah, hello. What's your question, please? We lost that.
We lost that caller. But just to buttress that, safeguarding and parents, they cannot be separated. Cultural integration is needed. Learn to talk to your children. Women, we need to talk to our girl child. You see, a girl will come and run out and say, Mommy, I think I've cut myself, I'm bleeding. She's seen her first menstruation. As far as I'm concerned, if that ever happens near me, that woman has not done her job.
Yeah, hello, caller.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Vicky. I'm coming from Benin City.
From Benin City. Okay, so what's your question?
Hello?
Yeah, hello. Go ahead and ask your question here.
Network is now our friend today.
I guess maybe because they are hearing a man's voice. So.
Okay, maybe I can then tell them to go on and ask the question. Will they hear me?
Oh, yeah, they will hear you. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we can experiment with that. And this is some of the things, Pastor Olotu, can you see this now? You say maybe they are hearing a man's voice and that's why they are going away. It's part of our cultural drawbacks.
Hello?
Yeah, you're on with you're on with Dr. Loretta.
Hello, good evening. Sorry, my network is kind bad here.
Yes, good evening. Good to hear you. Go on, ask your question.
Okay. This is not really a question. This is just actually I just wanted to say you guys are doing a very good job.
Oh, thank you.
And I love the program. Keep it up.
Thank you. How is Benin City?
Benin is it's kind of scary. I still have lots of it's kind of it's still shaky a bit. The town is still very, very how do I put it now? Unsecured in a way, so to say.
So this is the time that all our women should learn to keep themselves safe, because this is we need to employ emotional intelligence and situational awareness. Rape cases and rape victims are going to be higher this time. So we need, as women, because this program is all about women's health, we need as women to take precautions. You don't go out late at night. You don't go out not escorted by a trusted male companion like a senior brother or a very trusted friend, and or your partner. Hello. Oh, she's gone. That was nice. That was nice.
Gone.
Yeah.
No, I think it's the network. The network is dropping.
The network.
Yeah.
Okay.
So caller, if you have any question, we have Dr. Loretta's information. You can contact her. I know the women are not calling, and they cannot ask their questions, because that's why I didn't want to show my face at all.
Women's health is not only about women. Many men should also call in. They have wives.
Oh, beautiful. So for women who
they
are
have side chicks, they have girlfriends, they have sisters, they have mothers. So women's health is something everybody should have all hands on deck for.
Oh, beautiful! Yeah. So for women who are trying to conceive and being married for a while and not being able to conceive, what should they do? What's your advice?
So I want first and foremost to explain that subfertility or infertility is a couple's condition. It is not one person's problem, okay? It's the two parties, the man and the woman in that relationship seeking to have a child. Because what I find is that you see women going from pillar to post, where the man stays put at home, in Nigeria especially. Whereas there are figures that have emanated from previously done studies that shows that 40% of infertility or subfertility is caused by male factors. Another 40%. So that's quite significant. So my advice is, if there is the quest for fertility, first of all, come together as a couple and make that decision that you want to solve it. Because there is no use you going from one doctor to the other and your partner does not go with you. The next thing is, you must first optimize your lifestyle and your diet. So your BMI as a woman and as a man who is seeking to have children with their partner should be less than 30. That's the ideal.
So what's BMI for
your body mass index?
Okay, good.
So there's a way. So overall, what I'm saying is that don't be fat. Don't put on weight. Okay, because we found that a lot of that can be linked and even cause things like PCOS.
For the men or the women?
Even both parties. Okay, both parties. Then the other thing is, I've said optimize your diet and your lifestyle. So if you're a woman and you smoke and you drink, you have to stop it. If you're a man and you smoke and you drink, you have to stop it, because the metabolites of smoking, the metabolites of all those drugs, some people do cocaine and the rest, they are not good. They will go there and they will destroy your sperm production. And for a woman, they are not good for the production of your eggs and even the sustenance of pregnancy. Then you need to realize that A lot of infertility is unexplained and is time dependent. So if you are young, if you are below 30 and you got married, I see some women crying from pillar to post. Oh, I've been married for 1 year. I don't have a child. 1 year is too small for you to disturb yourself for. Although, depending on how old you are, we can begin to disturb ourselves. But if you are really young, way under 25, 20, that's nothing to worry yourself about. 2-year mark, yes. But if you are older, 1 year mark, if you're like a 38-year-old woman, yeah, 1 year mark, start seeking help. Now, the other thing you have to realize is that, and the reason I've said is that most of these women will conceive within 1 year to 2 years if they are young and everything is fine, because it's just unexplained. But for men, you have to be very thorough in taking a history from them. So at some point, you will decide, when do we want to seek help? And when you want to seek help, culturally, we like to go to church, but as you are going to church, also seek help in an approved medical provider's place that is in that specialty. There is no use of you want to have a baby, then you go to a doctor who treats ear, nose, and throat. And I find in Nigeria, is the doctor near our house? No, actually find out what specialty. So you either go to a gynecologist or you go to a proper infertility consultant, and they are going to take a proper history and decide what intervention will suit you and your partner. So the things you do for yourself, you go on pre-pregnancy care multivitamins. If you are on the fat side, please go on folic acid. And if you are an older woman, so you need folic acid. So these are some things you can do for yourself. And then by the time you go and see the core experts, they will then take it from there. But bear in mind that infertility is not necessarily a woman's problem. And socioculturally, you see mother-in-laws coming. I have a friend who the mother will come and insult the woman from A to Z every day that she has refused to give her a grandchild. Whereas it was her own son who was firing blanks. Okay.
Yeah, but one thing I know, before the mothers go after the wives, they first of all go to their sons and ask them, did any girl ever get pregnant for you before?
Now, let me tell you why that is not a valid way of testing fertility in a man. One, until I do a DNA, Pastor Olotu, if all of us did DNA for ourselves now, we'll be shocked what we find. So if you tell me that a girl got pregnant for you 30 years ago, that is story, okay? Then number two, you may have been fertile 20 years ago and infertile now because you may have been taking some drugs that could have distorted fertility. You may have suffered some illnesses that can cause problems, or you may have been indulging in some lifestyle, alcohol intake, smoking, and all of that can impair fertility now. Or you may have been doing some sport, high impact sports, where you play football, they've knocked the balls up and down. You're a long distance driver, always sitting down, the place is always hot. There's a reason why it's outside the body, so keep cooling it, okay? And at the end of the day, the person is now infertile. So asking your child if your child has ever impregnated any woman, and they'll come and say, any woman don't do abortion for you before. And then I say, that is a test of his fertility. No, that's not. You see some men, they'll just look very brave. They've been training, eating steroids, taking steroids, taking steroids, and they are building their muscles. But that can actually say, this is very viral. No, those medications can actually cause infertility. So
how about in situations where if you find a couple being married for sometime, I think I've heard for about 10 years or 5 years or so, married, they could not have children together. And of course, mother-in-law drove the woman out of the house, and she got married to somebody else and got pregnant. Meanwhile, the man too got married to somebody else and impregnated the person. So in that situation, what would have
Okay. At the
happened?
risk of me being cynical, yes, there are such cases, but they are few and far in between. They are rare. There are what things we call autoantibodies. I don't know if we have those screens in Nigeria, and there are some things you screen for, but a lot of those will either be very recurrent miscarriages, and they are early, so they probably would not even know they were pregnant, and they just keep thinking it's their period every month. So there are those kind of cases, but they are very, very rare. Most of the time, what we find is that, and I'm sorry to say this, but this is my world. Welcome to our world. Is that people lie, and sometimes you find so much non-truth, okay, that you just get tired. I've seen a man who left his wife, and he went and married someone else, and she had a baby. The wife went and married someone else, and she had a baby. But at the end of the day, none of those children were those couples. So, and sometimes, let me tell you what happens. You are there, and people will come and tell you, am I permitted to speak my language? I'm sorry, but
Go ahead. Yeah,
people will come and tell you in Benin, well, normal girl degbe. Translated, if you don't know how to navigate the rivers of life, now you know what to do. Go and do what you have to do. And you find these women resorting to desperate means, especially when they find that it's the partner who has the fertility problem, and they want to protect the sanctity, the sacrilege, and the pride of their man. They will go and do all sorts of things. Thank God that IVF has come. It's raging in Nigeria, even though it's poorly regulated. But now a lot of people are, and that's fine, that's okay. As far as you seek organized and legal help. But I think what I'm trying to point out here is that socioculturally, our environment is not kind to the woman in a relationship where there is childlessness. And there are other ways to go about this as well. You could adopt, you could do surrogacy. I don't know how. Surrogacy is quite expensive in Nigeria. I was talking to someone last week. But all these things are now there.
So how about the IVF? How effective is it for the women?
No, IVF works. I cannot give you Nigeria's percentages now because I am not practicing in Nigeria, but my colleagues are getting results. And sometimes I have been critical of them, and I have told them that they are doing things right in many cases, but there are some that are not doing things very right, and they've gone bust. You know, when I say bust, it's gone pear-shaped. It didn't go right. You have cases where a 55-year-old woman comes, and you are doing IVF for her, and you are putting in three fertilized embryos. To me, that's looking for trouble, because the higher we go as women, the more likely we are to have raised blood pressure when we are pregnant, the more likely, if we are Black women, for that to happen, the more likely for, if those 3 pregnancies take and you have triplets, you're going to have problems. You see, we saw it play out in Lagos, where a woman who was a head teacher, she had, I think, 3 implanted, and she died in the course of that pregnancy. Ideally, you just want to do 2, and you have to make sure you take care of those women. So IVF is successful. It depends on what do you want to do. Are you just doing basic, I take an egg, I take a sperm, and I fertilize it and put it back? Maybe because the woman's tubes are blocked from previous infection, or maybe because the man has had some problems. Or are you doing it, taking it a step further because the man has some sperm, but they are not very good? So in an ejaculate, you find that when we do what we call seminal fluid analysis, we are not just looking at the number of sperm, we are actually looking at how well formed they are, and if they are moving forward properly. You have some, they are not well formed. They have a head, they have no tail. Some have tail, they don't have head. And then some don't move forward and they are moving backwards, and that doesn't help. And in fact, some men have very little healthy ones. So you have to go in, take it, wash it, and then prepare it and get the nice ones. So that's like, it's ICSI, where you actually take it and all of that preparation before you now fertilize an egg. And then there are cases where the man just doesn't have any sperm, azoospermia, complete one. So in that case, you have to really talk. You see why it's a couple problem. Many people will not come and tell us, Pastor Nosalotu, that this is what they've done. But then this is where you now have to get a donor. And with the man's consent. But nobody's going to come and tell you. And it's okay. It's okay because, I don't think particularly, I don't know about other people, but I don't think it's biologically giving birth to a child that makes you a father. I think there's a lot more to fatherhood than that biology. So yes, IVF works, but go to the right centers and understand the risk. And that's a big topic for another day. If I go into that now,
I think we should have a special topic for that.
On fertility, yes.
Fertility,
fertility is not just a woman's problem. Nigerians, Africans, take notes. It can be your son, madam, mother-in-law, it can be your brother. The sister-in-law that will come and say, hey, my brother never born, and 2 women born for him before 10 years ago. Have you done a DNA? Are you so sure those are his children? And even if those are his children, that was 10 years ago.
Oh, but sometimes you see some of those children, you see that you're just the replica of the men. So you actually don't need to do DNA. There are some...
So your eye is not a genetic test. You see, I'm not trying to say that women don't have problems. After all, I think female factors are also about 40%. So it's 50-50. But I think socioculturally, all the blame since you are doing women's health, you might as well say the truth. All the blame just goes on to the woman. You have issues like polycystic ovaries, where a woman may actually not be able to conceive. In that situation, and you have some reversible and some non-reversible causes of infertility, but you just have to go and first of all find out what is causing my own. So they will do all the investigations for you first, and then they will now treat you according to the cause of what they find. So it's important that we go to the right places.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Loretta. That's all we can take for now. I think we should come back and do the fertility.
Not a problem. That would be grand.
Good. We need to talk all right. Thank you very much. So everyone listening, if you're listening to me after the broadcast, Dr. Loretta is offering a free one-time consultation for you. If you're a woman, not a man. Oh, you're a woman. Today's women.
If you're a man and you want to consult on behalf of a woman, it's okay.
Okay. Oh, okay. Beautiful. So I'll be putting.
There are some women who will say, "No, my husband will ask the question, then he will tell me." It's must accommodate everyone.
Everyone. Okay. Good. All right, and thank you very, very much. It's been a wonderful time. So see you again. Thank you, Doctor. God bless you.
You're welcome. Domosa, as my people would say. And for all our viewers across the world, thank you.
Thank you.
This is Nigeria, the real home of the black people.